Educational satellite television programs.
Hello, teacher. Hello, students. Welcome to today's lesson on the response in lower animals. Our last lesson was the first in our new unit on behavior. In our previous lesson, we learned about the behavior and response in plants. We learned how shoots respond to light and how the plant responds to gravity. We also defined the terms phototropism and gravitropism. Today, we are going to learn about the response in lower animals. We are going to focus on different insect species. Are you ready to begin the lesson, students? Let us start off with a quick review on the concept of behavior. Students, based on what we have learned from our last lesson, can you state the biological definition of the term behavior?
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Welcome back, students. I am sure everyone remembered this word from our previous lesson. Behavior is defined as the coordinated response of an organism to an internal or external stimulus. As we learned in our last lesson, plants are equipped with ways to respond to stimuli. This enables the plant to grow and develop in their environment. Some responses in simple animals are similar to those in plants. Two different types of responses in simple animals that we will be learning about today are taxis and kinesis. Taxis describe innate movements by an organism in response to a directional stimulus. In our textbook, taxis are described as how the organism moves along a gradient of intensity of a stimulus towards the greatest intensity of that stimulus. Sometimes the animal moves away from the greatest intensity. Taxis describe a directional response to a directional stimulus. An example of taxis would be observed in Protoctiston, Euglena. In response to light, Euglena move towards the light source using its flagellum. The stimulus causes a specific movement in a particular direction. Taxis are similar to phototropism in plants. In response to light, plants grow in the direction of the light source. Taxis usually involve motion in the direction of the stimulus or away from the stimulus. When the movement is towards the stimulus, it is called positive taxis. And when the motion is away from the stimulus, it is called negative taxis. The second type of response in lower animals is called kinesis. Kinesis, like taxis, is a movement or activity of an organism in response to stimulus. Kinesis is the plural word for kinesis. However, unlike taxis, the kinesis response to stimulus is non-directional. Kinesis enables a change in the rate of movement, not a change in the direction of movement. Kinesis is also completely random. If we look at the example of woodlice, we can see kinesis at work. Woodlice are a species of crustaceans that live on land. They are typically found under logs, stones, bark, and amongst piles of fallen leaves. They are generally flat in shape and have a large surface area to volume ratio. This means that they tend to lose water through their body surface at a high rate. Woodlice tend to live in areas that are humid and dark, so they can reduce their rate of water loss. If they are exposed to light, for example, if you lift up a log in a forest, they will start to move around much more quickly. This increased rate of movement is a response to the increase in light. This is an example of kinesis. The increased movement makes it more likely that the woodlice will move into the dark, humid conditions again. Once they do, their rate of movement decreases again, making it more likely they stay in these more favorable conditions. Let us review what we have just learned with an activity, students. Can you compare taxis and kinesis? Take a few minutes to write down your answer on a sheet of notebook paper.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Hello, everyone. I hope you were all able to compare the two responses in lower animals. As we have learned, taxis and kinesis are both physical responses to the environment of an organism. Taxis refers to an organism's response toward or away from some stimulus, like heat or light. It is only a directional change. Kinesis is an organism's general response to a condition. However, the reaction is usually measured by its change in movement, whether it is faster or slower moving. Unlike taxis, kinesis is not measured by direction. An example of kinesis might be in an organism's increased activity in response to a change in humidity or light. The more comfortable an organism gets in its environment, the slower its kinesis response. Students, for our next activity, can you list some examples of insect behaviors? Think of behaviors they might do in order to survive.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Welcome back, everyone. Were you able to think of some behaviors? You may have listed that insects locate food, and some insects, like ants, bring food back to their nests. You may also have listed that insects defend their nests and fight off predators. Insects sometimes move together, like a swarm of bees, or they scatter, like we learned using the example of woodlice. Responses like taxis and kinesis are the principal organizing system for understanding and investigating how insects and other organisms seem to know what to do and know where to go. When we look at social insects, like ants or bees, they seem to work together to accomplish tasks like building a nest or seeking out food. These behaviors are examples of innate response. Ants and bees are not really working together in the same way humans make a logical choice to work towards the same goal. Rather, the insects are responding to that same stimulus, such as chemical cues, light, sound, and wind. These cues enable them to make the same instinctual movements. We have reached the end of our lesson for today, students. In this lesson, we learned about response to stimuli in lower animals. We learned that taxis are specific, directed motions in response to stimuli, whereas kinesis is a random, undirected motion in response to stimulus. In response to light, euglena move toward the source. When woodlice are exposed to light, they scatter. Rather than running toward or away from the stimulus in a specified direction, the stimulus just causes them to move in a random direction. I hope you enjoyed the lesson today. Until next time, thank you, teacher. Thank you, students.